My friend, have you ever felt exhausted? Not just physically, but deep in your soul. You go through the motions, you smile when you have to, but inside you're weary. Life has drained you. You've prayed, you've tried, and yet nothing seems to change. I want you to know something today. God sees your exhaustion. He knows the burdens you carry, the struggles you don't talk about, the weight pressing on your heart. And He has not abandoned you. In fact, He's calling you to come to Him, to lay it all down at His feet. Jesus said in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That's not just a comforting verse, it's a divine invitation. God never intended for you to carry life's burdens alone, and today I want to show you how to find the deep, lasting rest that only He can provide. There are times in life when exhaustion goes far beyond the physical. It's not just about needing more sleep or taking a break. It's deeper than that. It's the kind of weariness that settles in your soul, making every step feel heavier, every decision seem harder, and every day feel like a battle. You wake up, but you're not refreshed. You smile, but it feels forced. You try to keep going, but inside you're wondering how much longer you can keep this up. Maybe you're carrying burdens that no one knows about, worries that weigh on you long after the world has gone to sleep. The responsibilities pile up, the expectations never seem to end, and somewhere along the way you've lost the strength you once had. You find yourself asking, does anyone see what I'm going through? Does anyone care? And more importantly, where is God in all of this? I want to remind you today that God sees your weariness. He knows exactly what you're going through. He sees the long nights, the anxious thoughts, the unspoken prayers, and the moments when you feel like giving up. He is not distant from your struggle. He is right there with you. The Bible tells us in Psalm 34:18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That means that even in the moments when you feel the most alone, God is near. One of the greatest lies the enemy wants you to believe is that no one understands your pain, that you are isolated in your struggle. But nothing could be further from the truth. God knows the exact condition of your heart. He sees what others don't see. He understands the silent battles you're fighting, the disappointment you try to hide, the deep longing in your soul for peace. And He is not ignoring you. In Genesis 16, there's a powerful story about a woman named Hagar. She found herself in a desperate situation, abandoned, rejected, wandering in the wilderness, feeling completely alone. But in her distress, God met her right where she was. He spoke to her, reassured her, and gave her hope. And in that moment, she gave God a name, El Roi, which means the God who sees me. That same God sees you today. He knows every tear you've cried, every fear you've wrestled with, every burden that has made your heart heavy. And He is not indifferent to your suffering. He is not ignoring you or leaving you to figure it all out on your own. Instead, He is inviting you to draw near to Him, to lean into His presence, and to trust that He is working even when you don't see it. Sometimes in our exhaustion, we feel like we have to keep going on our own strength. We convince ourselves that we just have to push through, that we can't afford to stop, that we have to be strong for everyone else. But the truth is, God never designed us to carry life's burdens alone. Isaiah 40:29 tells us, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. That means when you feel like you have nothing left to give, God is ready to step in and give you the strength you need. The problem is, too often we turn to everything except God when we're weary. We try to distract ourselves, numb the pain, or pretend we're fine when we're not. We pour our energy into things that don't satisfy, hoping that maybe, just maybe, we'll feel better. But the truth is, there is no amount of self-help, success, or temporary relief that can restore a soul that is drained. Only God can do that. When you are weary, the answer is not to keep pushing forward in your own strength, but to pause and turn to the one who knows exactly what you need. God is not just watching you struggle from a distance. He is calling you to come closer, to lay down the burdens you were never meant to carry, and to receive the peace that only He can give. Life has a way of wearing us down. The pressures, the responsibilities, the unexpected hardships, all of it piles up until we feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. Maybe you've been holding on for so long that you don't even remember what it feels like to be at peace. You keep pushing forward, trying to meet expectations, trying to keep up with everything life demands, but deep inside, you're exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually drained. You wonder if there's a way to find true rest, a place where your soul can finally breathe again. There is an answer, and it's not found in taking more time off, in vacations, or in just getting through the next season of life. Those things might bring temporary relief, but they don't touch the deeper need of the heart. Jesus gave an invitation that speaks directly to those who are weary, those who feel like they have nothing left to give. In Matthew 11:28, He said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That is not just a comforting statement, it's a promise. It's an invitation to experience something far greater than just a moment of relief. Jesus is offering a kind of rest that the world cannot provide, a rest that goes beyond the physical and reaches deep into the soul. The problem is that so many of us hear this invitation, but we don't accept it. We think we have to figure things out on our own. We tell ourselves that we just need to be stronger, that we can't afford to slow down, that we have to keep going no matter what. But that's not what God is asking of us. He's not telling us to carry everything by ourselves. He's calling us to come to Him, to bring our burdens before Him, and to trust that He will provide the strength we need. One of the greatest struggles in finding true rest is surrender. We want to hold on to control. We think that if we let go, everything will fall apart. But the reality is that when we refuse to bring our burdens to Jesus, we are carrying a load that was never meant for us. That's why so many people walk through life exhausted, because they are trying to do something that only God can do. They are trying to fix things that only He can fix, trying to control situations that are beyond their power, trying to find peace in things that were never meant to provide it. Jesus not only invites us to come to Him, but He also tells us how to find the rest we are looking for. In the next verse, Matthew 11:29, He says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." A yoke is what farmers would place on oxen to guide them as they worked. It was a symbol of submission, of walking in step with the one leading. Jesus is telling us that true rest comes when we are willing to surrender to His leadership, to trust in His way instead of our own. Seekiness is a sign of failure. The world tells you to be strong, to never show vulnerability, to act like you have it all together. But God is not asking you to pretend to be strong. He is asking you to trust in Him. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Your strength is renewed when you put your trust in Him, when you stop trying to rely on yourself and instead lean fully into His power. Some people are exhausted because they are fighting battles that they were never meant to fight. They are trying to fix things that only God can fix. They are trying to change people that only God can change. They are trying to carry burdens that only God can carry. But Exodus 14:14 gives us a powerful reminder. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That means you don't have to wear yourself out trying to control everything. You don't have to drain yourself worrying about things that are beyond your ability. When you surrender your battles to God, when you trust Him to handle what you cannot, you will begin to experience the peace that He has promised. There is something powerful about recognizing that you cannot do it all on your own. When you admit that you need God, when you surrender your struggles to Him, you open the door for His supernatural strength to take over. Psalm 55:22 tells us, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. You will never let the righteous be shaken." That means every worry, every burden, every source of exhaustion that has been weighing you down, you don't have to carry it. God is inviting you to release it to Him, to let go of the things that are draining you, and to trust that He will sustain you. Many people are tired on the inside because they are disconnected from their true source of strength. They go through life running on empty, trying to manage everything on their own, but they are not spending time with the one who gives them power. Just like a phone needs to be recharged, just like a lamp needs to be connected to the power source to shine, your spirit needs to be connected to God in order to be strong. Philippians 4:13 reminds us, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." It doesn't say we can do all things in our own power. It says we can do all things through Christ. That means your ability to keep going, your ability to overcome, your ability to find joy even in the midst of trials. It all comes from Him. One of the greatest truths in Scripture is that God is not only willing to give you strength, but He delights in doing so. Psalm 29:11 says, "The Lord gives strength to His people. The Lord blesses His people with peace." That means you don't have to earn His strength. You don't have to prove yourself worthy of it. He gives it freely to those who seek Him, to those who trust Him, to those who are willing to lay down their own efforts and receive what He has to offer. When you come to Him in prayer, when you open your heart to Him, when you make the decision to trust Him instead of trying to do everything on your own, that is when you will experience His supernatural strength in your life. God never intended for you to walk through life exhausted, drained, and overwhelmed. He never asked you to carry burdens that are too heavy for you. He is calling you to surrender, to trust, to rest in His strength instead of your own. When you learn to depend on Him, when you stop striving in your own power and start leaning on His, you will discover a strength that never runs out, a peace that cannot be shaken, and a rest that truly refreshes your soul.